Hello again. Experience design, as you know probably better than anyone else on earth, is not just about defining what something looks like as much as defining how it all works. Let's take a look at how XD can help you and everyone that you work with to get there as quickly as possible. Let's say I'm a designer and I've been hired by Reel, an indie film company, to revamp their digital experience. I have started by using XD's streamlined drawing tools to create some basic elements, which I can then start to create wireframes from, for my tablet, mobile, and for my web experience. Now, let's start to add a little bit of fidelity to these wireframes. Let's say that the creative director from Reel actually sent me a Photoshop file, and what I want to do is open it in XD. So I drag the Photoshop file onto the icon, and it looks like XD has actually opened it. And what I have now here is all of my Photoshop layers, effects, all of my elements, and they are all fully editable. So 120 megabyte raster composite can now turn into a prototype. All right, so let's say that I've taken this inspiration and defined some elements that I think I'm going to be reusing in my design. This is the perfect time to bring out the Assets panel. The Assets panel basically makes it easy to reuse colors, character styles, and symbols that I use to create my design language. You simply select an element on the canvas and then hit a plus button. So let's do that with some colors. And now with these character styles. And then I'll use a shortcut key for my symbols. And as you can see, they've been added into the panel. All right, so I think we're ready to start working some magic on this artboard. Now, first of all, they have more than 6 films. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the artboard. I'm going to multiply it by 2 to make it longer. And then I'm going to take this header and I'm going to fix its position while it scrolls. I can also get rid of all of these because XD has a purpose-built tool that actually helps me to repeat content. And so I just select that entire element and click on Repeat Grid. And what I'm able to do pretty easily is to create the number of columns and rows that I need. And I can adjust the padding, so on and so forth. And now I can pretty quickly start to add some fidelity to my design by dropping in some images that I found on the interwebs. And in addition to that, I'm noticing that I still have some FPO copy in there, film, title, and genre. So I created some text files that actually have some of that information that I pulled down from the Reel website. I just take that film name, drop it into that field, the genres, and here we go. So that's starting to feel a little more real. See what I did there? So now I'm starting to notice that the text is actually in the wrong place. So what I would normally do is I would normally select all of these elements that I need to move and then repeat on every card. But with Repeat Grid, I only make the change to one field and the rest follow suit. So I've also noticed that in addition to being the ugliest font in the universe, this is actually not the right font. So I could just select one element. Let's take this one and then go into the property inspector, pull it down. But that was the whole point of defining my styles inside of the assets panel. So as you can see, with a single click, I can actually apply the styles and make this adhere a little bit more to the brand style guide that I'm setting up for Reel. Same thing with colors. I can click on the element that I want to change on the canvas, and with a simple click, I can change it. All right, so let's fast forward a bit. Reel sends me a message telling me that they no longer want to use white as a background, which is super sad because I've used it everywhere in the design. Totally fine, not a problem. Because with XD, and this is a part of the power with the Assets panel, it's really easy for me to right-click on the white swatch, select Edit, and then start to make the change that I need to make to any particular color or character style. All right, crisis averted. Now, let's talk a little bit more about symbols. I made this element, let's undo this change. All right, I turned this logo into a symbol earlier, and now what I'm going to do is to place it, copy it, and then select all of the artboards that I want to paste it into, hit paste, and as you can see, it's been pasted into place. This is a part of what I was talking about before when I say that none of you, went to school or taught yourselves design in order to feel like a professional aligner of objects or like a professional like cutter and paster of objects, right? All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. Real calls you, and sure enough, they want to make a change to the logo. They'd like to incorporate the coral color. Okay, so it's really easy in XD and with symbols. You just double-click into the symbol that you're trying to change. I'm going to bring a color over from the Assets panel, and as you can see, that logo has been changed everywhere. So when you change one symbol, you're really changing them all. Okay, now real calls, and it's not really about the color anymore. They actually have a completely different logo that they'd like to use. And so one of the things that you can do instead of getting annoyed is you just channel all that quiet rage into your fingers and you turn it into a symbol, which means that you can then drag and drop it and swap it in for the old logo. Okay, I'm feeling really good about this design, and now I want to actually take my design and turn it into an interactive prototype. As I showed you before, just with a single click, the design and drawing tools go away and XD becomes a prototyping surface. So let's say that what I want is for this button to transition over to the next artboard when somebody clicks on it. I simply click on the element, and from this blue node, I pull out a wire, drop it onto the artboard that I'm trying to go to, and select the kind of transition that I want. All right, so in this case, let's say that I want to slide up. You can also adjust the easing, the duration, and to preserve the scroll position. All right, let's do that on one more element. And now here's the deal. See that little play button? I actually want that to trigger another kind of an interaction, not an artboard to artboard transition. What I want to do is bring this scene selector up as an overlay. So what I can do, again, is draw that wire from the element over to the control module, and instead of selecting transition, I click on overlay. So let's make it slide up as well. And as you can see, what I'm actually getting is a dotted line, which tells me that it's an overlay versus a transition. I also get this green frame, which allows me to position the overlay on the source artboard. When I click on this, I actually get a preview of what that's going to look like. All right. So I'm going to go back to the world of print for a second to tell you a story. Something used to happen, which is that sometimes I would be sitting down and I would be designing, and I would just look at what I had created and I would say to myself, Cisco, you're a genius. Like, this is amazing. And then I would output, I'd print to the printer, and then I would look at it and be like, oh God, like what is that? And I think that has to do simply with something that we know as designers, which is that outputting early and often is a part of what helps our designs to actually work. And so what XD does, in addition to allowing you to wire transitions, it actually has a built-in previewer. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, there's a play button, and if you hit that, let me go to the source artboard first, to my home artboard, click play, And actually what you have here is exactly the prototype as your customer would be experiencing it. You can connect XD to your iOS or Android device as well. So let's click here. Yep, that looks good. And now click on play. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this. So it looks like I'm ready to share now. Again, without leaving XD, I just go to the share icon in the upper right-hand corner, click on Publish Prototype, and I'm able to create a new private link. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And when XD is done creating a shared prototype, I'll be able to enter the email addresses of the folks I want to securely share with. Let's say I want to share it with Real's art director, and her email is creativestakeholder@gmail. It's very original. They can afford a lot, those Real people. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to enter her email address. And I've pre-entered it. And this also connects to my enterprise address book. All right, so I've sent off that invite. And what I'm going to do now is switch really quickly and show you what she would be seeing on her end. So in just a second, XD will let me know that the invitation has been sent, and I'll be able to teleport myself magically through the wonders of optical lines and so on and so forth. So we move across town to Real, and now what we have is an invitation that has made its way to the creative director. And what she is able to do pretty easily is to load a prototype that completely renders all of the interactions that I've created on my side as a designer. And so everything that you would expect to see as a transition is live in this web prototype. And it's possible for her to say stuff like, and what ends up happening is that as a designer working in Creative Cloud, I get a little notification letting me know that a comment has been made. So again, we're bringing the workflow full circle and eliminating all those places where you have friction and pain points and doing things that you don't actually want to be doing. All right, finally, let's fast forward a bit. And I go through a few cycles, I get the approval that I need, and now I'm ready to send it off to my developers. But instead of generating, an annotated PDF, which I know is everyone's favorite thing to do, instead of doing that, I simply click on the sharing icon again, click on Publish Design Spec, and I can create either a private or a public link, which my developers can then use to inspect the flow, and they can actually drill down into each artboard. And when they do that, they can do things like get the measurements of particular elements. They, in the case of type, let's select this element right here, dates, they can actually just with a single click copy it into their clipboard, making it easier for them to work and bring elements from XD into the tools that they're working in to code. And a friend of mine who went to Symposium recently in Sydney told me that he heard a rumor that asset extraction was going to be available next week for developers inside of design specs. So, as you can see, I started my day with XD, and I'm hanging my hat on it at the end of a day because I can design, prototype, and share all on one platform. Thank you.